Thank you, everybody, for joining. I'm really excited to be here today to formally introduce Brandon Gomes as the general manager of the Los Angeles Dodgers. I've known Brandon for over 10 years and have been consistently impressed with the way his mind works, his ability to connect with people, and working with Brandon as a player and now with the Dodgers has made me better at my job by the way he sees the world, his overall level of curiosity and thoughtfulness. In Brandon's time with the Dodgers, he has made an incredible impact through his natural leadership qualities, his on-field experience, and his overall feel for the game. So those are some of the reasons why we felt like this was an obvious and natural progression. On a personal note, I'm really happy that Brandon, his wife Blair, and their 2 children will continue to make Los Angeles their home and will continue to impact the Dodgers for years to come. With that, I want to open it up to questions, as I'm sure you guys are more interested in hearing from Brandon, but thank you.
First question is from Fabian. Go ahead, Fabian.
Hey, my first question is actually for Andrew. You guys have sort of left the GM spot open for a couple of years. What made now sort of the time for you guys to elevate someone into that role?
Yeah, it's always been something that's, it's been something that's been on our mind, obviously, since 2019. And we just weren't in a rush to do it, and that we wanted to make sure and get it right. In the 3 years, I've continued to work with an extremely talented group of people and a great team that, feel like that overall vibe and camaraderie was really strong. But, for us, this was something that with Brandon, what he's continued to display on a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly basis, I think made this a natural kind of progression for him.
And then for Brandon, first off, congratulations. But what sort of made this path something that you wanted to do since the time you retired? And what have you sort of learned throughout the process, obviously the last few years as you've risen through these different roles?
I think going back to even as a player towards, the end of my career, I was always interested in just, the overall operations of how a major league team works. So I had curiosity early on from, how the draft works, what goes into that, daily moves, constructing a roster. So that was something that was of interest to me from my playing days. And then once that ended, kind of wanted to get into, get my foot in the door. And obviously with a pitching background, it was helpful to come on board as part of the pitching department as Andrew and Gabe Kapler at the time were rebuilding, how the pitching structure in the minor leagues. So, that was the way to get in and be able to provide value to the organization and also get to learn more and work with really talented and passionate people. So I think that was the impetus of it, and it has progressed from there.
Thank you.
Next question is from Bill Plunkett. Go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, Brandon, it's barely been 5 years since you threw your last pitch as a player. At the time, did you anticipate this as your career path? And how much faster has it gone than you might have expected 5 years ago?
I mean, I think when your career, ends, you kind of don't know exactly where it's going to go. I knew I wanted to get into, the baseball operations side and had, a goal of getting into a front office at some point. It's progressed quickly, but I think, at each and every turn, my goal was to do good work for the sake of doing good work and put my head down and try to tackle each task to the best of my ability. So it's progressed quickly, and I'm obviously very grateful and fortunate for the opportunity. I don't think I could have, foreseen this path, but, taking it day by day and trying to do the best I can at each opportunity was really the goal from the get-go.
And for Andrew, how do you anticipate this GM relationship being different than the one you had with Farhan?
I'm not sure exactly in that it's not something that we've written down formally. This is exactly what you're going to do. This is exactly what I'm going to do. I think it's just a partnership, and I think things will change throughout, months and years, and things will ebb and flow. And I think just through communication, we'll figure out what makes the most sense at any given time. But obviously, he will touch all aspects of the baseball operations department, and we'll kind of figure out how to divide and conquer.
Next question is from Jim Alexander. Go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, Bill kind of touched on what I was going to ask, but maybe to expand on it, Andrew, the division of responsibility between president of baseball operations and general manager, and obviously that changes and it's sort of flexible depending on the team. But as a rule, in the time that you've been in baseball, first with the Rays and now, how has that changed? And is there more responsibility or less responsibility on a GM's plate in a two-headed situation like this?
No, I mean, I think, you look around and appreciate the size and the breadth of our organization, internationally, domestically, from an amateur perspective, pro, and all that goes into it. I think, having more people to kind of divide and conquer is what allows us to be as good as we can possibly be in every facet. And, I think from our standpoint, and that's all I can really speak to, I think it will continue to be a partnership, and we will figure out, as the months and the years go on, of how to kind of divvy things up and not be too focused on doing it in a formal way, but more appreciating kind of where we are in different respects and where one or both of us need to pour more of our energy. It's definitely evolved since 2004, 2005. But I think in a way that has benefited baseball, in that I think more minor league players are becoming the best versions of themselves, and therefore there are more qualified players from the minor leagues to the major leagues. So I do think there are benefits that come with that. And, we have obviously been working together closely for years now. But I do think that there are certain things that a GM and or president needs to handle. And now we can kind of divide that up and free up bandwidth for either myself or for him. That allows us to continue to focus on other areas as well.
And Brandon, congratulations, first of all. The idea that even as a player, you were sort of aiming for a career in baseball management after your playing days were done. What is it about what you experienced as a player that you think will benefit you in this role and going forward?
I think, having the opportunity to play with a lot of different guys, very talented, superstars, to guys who, were, gone back and forth players, basically, like myself. I think that's a helpful perspective in this role. And, moving forward, I think it's just the opportunity to continue to use that knowledge and, having the curiosity of what was going on at the time. I think as a player, you're not like, oh, I'm going to be finished next. Everybody believes they're going to play for 10 years, and that's just not the case. So as things were coming to a close and you could kind of see the writing on the wall, that's when it became a little more front of mind of what could be next. So I think that's that transition and having, the ups and downs of a career. Like in failure comes a lot of really strong lessons that, help shape decisions and how you work moving forward. So I think the totality of my career, of the ups and downs and, getting hurt and having different perspectives, I think is helpful when it comes to just having a general sense of how guys view the clubhouse, how things work in the front office now that I've been around on this side and got to learn from a lot of talented and, generous people. So that totality of it, I think, is what will help shape things moving forward and what have helped shape things up to this point.
Next question is from Juan Toribio. Go ahead.
Hey, Andrew, I think we've all kind of heard and written how fast Brandon has kind of climbed in the ranks. What kind of makes him ready to handle this role this quickly? And what are some of the qualities that you see in him?
Yeah, I agree that it has been a quick ascension. I think I could argue that it could have been quicker. I think just his ability to connect with people, and then what stems from that. You can kind of get a sense through this, just how curious he was as a player, how curious he is now in this role, and his natural kind of leadership qualities. And you take all of that together, and I think it's a pretty rare executive profile. And the relationships he's been able to forge here, the impact that he's made, again, we felt like this was kind of the natural progression for him, and are extremely confident that he will thrive and excel in this new role.
And then Brandon, does it maybe make it a little bit sweeter that it is with the Dodgers, that this role kind of happened with the Dodgers under Andrew, obviously someone you've known for a really long time? Yeah,
from day one of joining the organization, I was incredibly impressed with just the quality of person that has been surrounded by, like I've been surrounded by them, like vice versa, just being able to work with these people that are so passionate and talented in this game. So having the opportunity to stay here, love it here, getting the chance to put down roots and continuing to work with Andrew and the rest of the incredibly talented group is the absolute ideal situation, and incredibly grateful for that.
Thank you.
Next question is from Ron Kavner. Go ahead, Ron.
Hey, Andrew, obviously you knew Brandon as a player, and you mentioned, being impressed with kind of the way his mind worked then. How much of those traits had you already seen from Brandon just from the playing days? And when you talk about the traits that you've liked in him so far, how much is that just what you've learned over the last kind of few years?
Yeah, it's hard to split those apart. But, I remember early on, after we traded for him in 2010, early on, he was really curious about what we liked about him, how his pitches profiled, what he could do to get better. His ability to handle constructive criticism and appreciate that it was, only to make him better. He not only could handle it, he wanted it and sought out that information from myself and others that I worked with the Rays. And you could see it in terms of how it made him better on the field. And just his ability to connect with his teammates, also really stood out. And then transitioning to the Dodgers in 2016, the way he poured himself into our pitching department and the incredible strides that we've made on that front have his fingerprints all over it. Our player development system has his fingerprints all over it. Our major league roster in the last few years have his fingerprints all over it. So I think just his curiosity and his feel for the game, has contributed not only to his success as a player, but also as a front office executive.
And Brandon, congratulations again. You'd mentioned being kind of interested in how, a major league team works even toward the end of your playing career. When you first kind of went over to the front office side, early on, did you know that this would kind of be a goal for you, or is this something that over the last, just couple years has kind of materialized?
When I transitioned to the player development side, it was definitely a goal of mine. To be honest, I had no idea quite how to get there. It was like, hey, I'm just going to go and consume as much information and talk to as many people as I possibly can to try to learn as much about how things work as I possibly could. So I think that was the mindset coming in. Once I finished playing, it was a goal of mine. But from that first point was like, hey, I want to get into Dodger Stadium and be around and pick up on any tidbit that I possibly could.
Thanks.
Next question is from Jack Harris. Go ahead, Jack.
There we go. Hey, Andrew, I wanted to ask you about some of the other moves that you guys announced this week. With Damon Jones, how did he get on your guys' radar, and what are the things that he'll kind of be responsible for in his role?
Yeah, Stan Kasten worked with Damon in Washington, and a number of people here, and people at MLB, people that have worked with him have always spoken really highly of him. I had not met him. He actually helped us on an arbitration case a couple years ago after he had left the Nationals. And so we started the dialogue of, trying to figure out, if something made sense here. He's actually from here, played baseball at Santa Barbara. And so that conversation and dialogue kind of continued. He went to the Washington football team. And in the last 3 or 4 months, we started talking more and more. And obviously, we've lost a number of people through permission requests, which invariably kind of happens each and every year. And as much as we can, we promote from within, but we felt like this was a unique opportunity to bring someone in from the outside that we felt like could really impact us, with negotiations. There are a number of things that, he's going to bring some real baseball experience and baseball feel, which will be additive and really helpful. And then you couple that with his legal background and a lot of things that come up for us on a daily basis. That background will also be really helpful. And so we're excited about adding him to the team, not just his qualifications, but also the type of human. I think he's going to fit in really well within our culture and continue to enhance it.
And then bumping up Brandon McDaniel and with the changes you guys made with the training staff, just kind of what went into those decisions?
Yeah, Brandon has, grown so much in the 7, 8, 9 years that he's been in this role and has impacted so many of our major league and minor league players. The role has evolved in the last couple of years to really help on the assessment side as well in terms of player personnel decisions. And as we've continued to place kind of added emphasis on, player development, even at the major league level, he's been at the forefront of that and kind of front and center, and felt like, he was very deserving of that promotion to vice president, and will continue to impact us as we integrate our different departments to continue to enhance our player development process.
And then moving up Thomas Albert, what went into that?
Yeah, we did an extensive search interview process, and obviously we've gotten a chance to watch Thomas firsthand over the last 5 or 6 years, and the relationships that he has forged with players, his desire to grow and learn through continuing education has continued to benefit our players. we just felt like at the end of that process, he was the right person to lead that department. And as much as we can, we like promoting from within, and felt like he was really deserving. And with that, we were able to bring in a couple of other guys that we feel like will complement, and that overall our team on the player health side will be really strong.
I got time for one more. Go ahead, Eric.
Brandon, just wondering, what do you see as the difference, if at all, in your job between, say, as an assistant and now as the GM?
I think Andrew touched on it earlier, but it's very much a divide and conquer, and we're going to kind of let this play out naturally. And, you know, we have such a talented group that we work with on a daily basis. It's just putting everybody in the best position to succeed and go out and dominate an area, so that collectively we're in the best possible place that we can be.
And then I guess for both of you, is there any updates on, say, the major league coaching staff or anything like that?
No.
Okay.
No. I would like to add one thing on Brandon, and I think it's fairly unique. After 2016, a major league team called to interview him to be their major league pitching coach. After 2018, a team called to interview him to be assistant GM. In the last couple of years, he's gotten a lot of permission requests to be a GM. And there aren't a lot of people that you can say that about that really are qualified to do so many different things. And I will say that at every turn, Brandon's response was always the same, which is, no thanks. I want to be with the Dodgers, and incredibly fulfilled here and don't want to leave. Family loves it here. And so it makes this even that much more special today to reward it in this way. But I just wanted to touch on the uniqueness of that, because it actually struck me as we were doing this presser